fellas, and yesterday I was supposed to bring you guys a video, but I will be delivering that video and the rest today. The reason why we didn't get this video yesterday is because as I was doing my research, I discovered something very, very important for people to pay attention to as we go into the game Anthem. The reason I say this is because what we're about to discover here and what we're about to learn about this world is pretty crazy. All these background details is going to help paint this big picture that we're trying to piece together as we get close to the launch of the game and understanding what it is this world of Anthem is as a whole picture instead of the bits and pieces we get as if we're playing a puzzle. So let's get right to it. We're going to start with Freelancers today. We're going to jump back and we're going to do history later, but we're going to start with Freelancers because there's something vital to it. So let's talk about Freelancers. So we know from what it says in the overview, it says freelancers are not technically a military organization. They are a ragtag group that carries on the traditions of the Legion of Dawn, protecting the people of Fort Tarsis from the dangers of the outside world. They traditionally operate in squads of 4. While the Sentinels stay close to Fort Tarsis, the freelancers are tasked with venturing beyond the fort to deal with more esoteric threats. They venerate Helena Tarsis, like most groups do, or as far as we know, all groups do. So, what I take from this is we understand that Freelancers is one of the 3 factions that make up what used to be the Legion of Dawn, and we'll get in a later video onto the Legion of Dawn. And the reason I saved that for later is because there's some speculation to be had that we can't answer now because we just don't have enough information. But let's get back to the topic at hand. The reason I want to start with the Freelancers is because what I discovered is juicy and I have to share it with you guys, and it's gonna lead us in future videos with more insight as we read about the Legion of Dawn, Helena Tarsis, Arden Vasa, etc., etc. But we need to have a better understanding, and I'll play a video clip at the end of our conversation to help paint this narrative about freelancers and sentinels and the roles that they play, and even the Dominion. But we know that we ourselves as characters, when we start playing the game, will be playing as a freelancer. We know freelancers usually move in groups of 4, as it states here. Usually would we know they usually move in groups of 4, and we know usually they have an even mix of the different javelin suits in their groups. We know that freelancers are supported by Cyphers who provide them with intelligence while in the field. Every freelancer team is given at least 1 Cypher, sometimes more. So there's usually a single Cypher, sometimes more, but usually in a 4-man team, there is 1 person providing all the information to that entire team. And the reason why I wanted to focus on the Cypher before we get into the history of the freelancers, because we need to understand what a Cypher is. So we're gonna do that. So we got Cypher. Overview. Cyphers are individuals with a sensitivity to the anthem of creation and are capable of telepathic communication, heightened mental calculation, and process incredible amounts of information. Many young people who are identified as having this unique gift undergo amber exposure and are dedicated training to enhance their mental skills. They serve in support roles to freelancers, providing information and analysis during expeditions while remaining in their amplifier chair. Every freelancer team is assigned at least 1 Cypher. sometimes more. Cyphers have the ability to project trajectories for javelins, long-range weaponry, and scanning the environment for threats. So, just reading that second paragraph alone, we gain a lot of insight on what ciphers do. So, the freelancer is the person moving in the suit, but pretty much your targeting reticle, when you launch your ability and it tracks all the targets and fires the missile at all of them, that's all being done by a cipher. The person talking to you is usually a cipher. The person giving you all the information is a cipher. And this leads me to believe, because when you get in the Javelin suit, there's no window for you to see out with your eyes. It appears to be a solid screen, and it looks like the screen projects an image, and that is what we see on the other side of the metal. That is not cameras or technology, my friend. I believe this is the work of a cipher. The cipher is the person doing it. And one of the known ciphers that we know is Faye Naveen, who is the person who's usually ciphering for us and our team. So that tells us that while we're out doing the fighting, we are heavily supported by Faye Naveen during this entire adventure. So that gives you insight, and that's going to give you a lot of respect for Faye, because without Faye, we would essentially be no different than. Oh, wait. Can't tell you that because we haven't talked about it. So let's go back. That way I could finish that statement. So there's a folk tale of the first cipher. It was a daughter of an engineer who developed strange new abilities not long after the Cataclysm. So this is going to be important. So we're going to click on Cataclysm. She could see faraway things or talk directly into another's mind. Soon, Arcanus arrived and presented her with the experiment to help them device test a device that would amplify her gift. However, the girl's minds ventured too far from her body and became lost to the music of the anthem of creation. It is believed that Cyphers glimpse the engineer's daughter while they're amplifying. So while they're using the amplifier, in the process of amplifying, they see glimpses of this engineer's daughter while they're talking to the team. So that tells me that her mind is somewhere stuck between finding its way back to her body, which would be long dead by now, and being pulled by the anthem creation. It's stuck in like this state of purgatory, I guess you could say. But in reading this, that tells us that the first cipher developed their abilities not long after the Cataclysm. The reason why that's important is because we know a cataclysm didn't happen during the time of the Legion of Dawn. We know the Cataclysm, from all the recent information we have out there on the interwebs, happened sometime around the Battle of Freemark. And that's important. And we got to watch the Battle of Freemark, which another YouTuber has graciously provided the video for us, which I'm sure they got from developers. So shout outs to both of those guys. And I'll link their channel with the original video down below. So if you want to watch it, it's there. But we know from all the information we gain that the first cataclysm happens not long after we start playing the game. So it didn't happen during the time of the Legion of Dawn, meaning the Legion of Dawn's suits did not have the ability to utilize what the ciphers offer us. So our suits are, in a sense, less advanced and more advanced at the same time than the original suits the Legion of Dawn had. And that lead me to believe that the Legion of Dawn didn't have ciphers. So that means the design of our suits would be fundamentally different than the designs of the original suits. The original suits would actually be able to see out of their suits physically, where we see out of our suits using magic, because this wouldn't be technically technology, because she's telepathically uh, projecting what she sees through our helmet, and that in a sense is what we see. So that's some pretty interesting information, because that tells us that not only are we heavily reliant on the engineers who fix and modify our suits, but we're also heavily reliant on these ciphers who allow us to do what we do in the field, which is kind of mind-blowing to me in a sense. Let's see if they got any information on cataclysms. So a cataclysm is a violent, unpredictable disturbance created when the anthem of creation overwhelms a shaper instrument. They often appear in an intense storm. While one cataclysm may create a bizarre new wildlife, another may shake the ground or force rivers to flow backwards. The only thing certain about a cataclysm is that it cannot be predicted. So, we don't get a lot of information about cataclysms, but we kind of understand from what they tell us what cataclysms do and how they affect the world. So, the reason why I say this is important is because based on juicy information we have, of course, it's speculation, so take it with a grain of salt, because there could have been cataclysms during the time of the Legion of Dawn, but we didn't get information about a cataclysm during the time of the Legion of Dawn. We get information about it as it states here. The first cipher was the daughter of an engineer not long after the cataclysm. Not long after a cataclysm, not long after the cataclysm. Meaning there has only been, as far as we know in the game to this point, one cataclysm. And this one cataclysm we know happens. This is where the spoiler alert comes in for you guys. Right when we start the game, somebody's been doing some tampering with the Anthem of creation, trying to wield its power, and it causes a cataclysm. That's when the first cataclysm happens. Hence why they put the cataclysm and not a cataclysm. So that tells me that prior to us playing the game, going back to the Battle of Freemark, there was no cataclysms happening before then. There was most likely Shaper Storms happening then, but not cataclysms, which are, as far as we know, larger versions of Shaper Storms that cause more damage and destruction and changes. But that leads me to believe that the Legion of Dawn suits are physically and fundamentally different than what we have today. That also tells me that the Legion of Dawn were fighting a very different enemy than the one we're fighting today. So that's something to think about, kind of like food for the thought. So from here, we're going to watch this video clip, and then we'll see how that goes.
Much of what I am about to tell you is not well known. My ward, Johnny, was there 10 years ago. She saw it with her own eyes. What you will already know is that Freemark was one of the great cities of Bastion. Ancient, proud, prosperous, but most important, it held the largest and greatest enclave of freelancers anywhere. The Freelancers, along with the Sentinels, guardians of the walls, protected Freemark and its people from the chaos of our world. Until one day, the Dominion arrived on their doorstep. Cruel conquerors from the north. The Dominion, the Sentinels, and the Freelancers would make their claim for Freemark that day. Each group heirs in their own right to the legendary General Tarsis and her Legion of Dawn. One of our best, Freelancer Adams led the charge as the Enclave leapt to meet the Dominion forces head-on. My Johnny says the army was massive. The Dominion was led by Dr. Harkin, a man never seen before or after that day. He came to take the city at any cost. So they fought, outnumbered, outflanked, and outgunned. Freelancers fought. They did well, for a time. But the walls of the Great Freemark did not hold. The Dominion poured in. Adams, with many freelancers, made their last stand outside the city walls. While some, like Johnny, stayed to help who she could. When, without warning, the doomed Sentinels fell back. But now I tell you that deep in the city, Johnny discovered what the Sentinels already knew. The Dominion didn't want to destroy Freemark. They wanted to capture an ancient Shaper relic that was protected deep inside the city. The Cenotaph. It seems this Dr. Harkin believed he had created a way for the Dominion to use the Cenotaph to control the Anthem of creation itself. Arrogance. The Anthem will not be controlled. The terrible Cataclysm, which was unleashed that day, destroyed Freemark, destroyed the Dominion, destroyed everything.
Okay, that was some pretty cool stuff right there, that video clip. But now, after watching that video clip, we see there was a cataclysm that day. And we saw it said the Cataclysm. So that would mean the first cataclysm or the only cataclysm. So it was that day, on that day, that an engineer's daughter had a vision, discovered it, and the suits fundamentally changed. Now, it seems like there's some plot holes in all of this. You know, putting all the information together, it seems like there's a lot of holes and plots in here. Like, we knew that that's when Cyphers came to be in their relation to freelancers. And of course, that would mean relations to Sentinels as well, because, you know, in their relation to freelancers, and of course, you know, that means Sentinels as well, because Sentinels use pretty much the exact same suits that the freelancers use. The only difference between the two is uh, freelancers go out and do things out in the world to defend and protect their city, while the Sentinels guard the walls and make sure nothing gets into the city. So they're pretty much the same, but they have their differences in the role they play in the universe. But from what we're told so far, Sentinels favor the Ranger suit, whereas freelancers make use of all the suits. So that's what I got so far for this video. This what we're looking at. It's looking pretty interesting, and it's getting kind of juicy because we're learning a lot of things, and the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. We started with one corner with those first two videos, and then we jumped over to another corner. But like a good puzzle, you build that outer border as your foundation, and you work your way into all the juicy bits. As always, this is Army 2 Willis, and I'll see you guys next time.